Okay, thanks everyone. We good. Hopefully, this will be the last session in terms of concluding what we started. If there are any specific areas of interest, we can take it up separately. So let's start as usual with the small prayer. Om Asatu Ma
Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amrutam Gamaya Shanti.
Lead us from the unreal to real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from death. So today I'm going to cover the fruits of this jnana that we have all been gaining over the last few weeks. And then, we'll take a review of whatever we have done and then close the session. Yeah, so to recap, we started with how to read the scriptures. We said Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, which is reading, internalizing, understanding, and internalizing. Said humans normally have goals, and the goals can be divided into 4: Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. All the 3 Artha, Kama, Dharma are temporary. They do not give you the permanent happiness that one is seeking. And the only thing that gives you permanent happiness is through moksha, which is self-realization. And the path to self-realization is through karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga. Right? So that's what where we are going. We went through karma yoga. We said karma yoga is doing the right things with the right attitude. Upasana yoga is disciplining one's mind so that you can focus. And then jnana yoga actually removes the ignorance that we all live under. So last session, we learned about, we covered individual over a few sessions, which we called Vyasti. And then we went into Samasti, which is the cosmos, where we realized that everything in this universe is a combination of anatma and atma, right? And through a series of analysis, we basically said anything that changes, anything that is kind of time period bound is anatma. And then we discovered that anything that we know is actually anatma. The only thing that is atma is that which is not an object, which is a subject, which is the knower. And there is only one atma, which is the ultimate knower, and we called it the ultimate consciousness. And and we said atma is not a part, property, or product of the body. It's all-pervading and immortal. So we wanted to make the shift. We said we are not human beings searching for spirituality. We are spiritual beings experiencing a human experience. Right? So we have to shift our view from being a body with consciousness to consciousness in a body. And we realize that Atma is what we call in the microcosmic Vyasti, and in the Samasti, which is the macrocosmic, we call it Brahman, which is the big, the vast. And universe is a combination of Atma and Anatma, Brahman and Maya. And we learned that Brahman is Satyam and Jagat is Mithya. That is, Mithya and Satyam we defined as Satyam is something that has independent existence, and Mithya is a dependent existence. If the Satyam doesn't exist, Mithya doesn't exist either. We talked about Brahman being the Satyam and the universe and the body and everything else being Mithya, or names and forms. Right? We went through the Avastatrayam, which is the 3 states of or states, three states of experience that we go through on a day-to-day basis. See, the beauty of Advaita is that it takes the day-to-day experience and basically makes you realize what Atma is, right? So that's the difference, where we are not saying you have to go through, some severe tapas or various stunts before you realize what you are. They take real experiences, your body, your waking state, your dreaming state, and then show you what is that fourth state, right? And we talked about it, Turiya being the fourth state, or rather, we should look at it not as a fourth, although it's called the fourth. It is the same thing that appears as a waking state, as a dreaming state, and as a sleeping, deep sleep state as well. So if we compared it to Turiya being the gold, and each of them being made names and forms of that gold, right? Bangle, ring, necklace, these are all just names and forms of gold. The truth behind all of these is ultimately gold.
I was checking my own Wi-Fi. Is it me or?
Same.
Sorry.
Not even mine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm back. You back?
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
No, we
Yeah, you froze.
For a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So Turiya is what we called a Sakshi or Atma. That's the observer from the knower or the observer. We defined Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, and we broke down Anantam. We said Anantam means limitless in terms of space, time, and objects, right? Space and time, we understand space means like if I am here, I'm not somewhere else, which means I'm limited by space. But when you are unlimited by space, you are everywhere. So you're omnipresent. And similarly, you're eternal. There is no beginning and end to this. We said if you take a human body, it is, it's basically got a starting point, womb to tomb, right? It's a dash between womb and tomb. That's what we are, right? That's the body. But if you take eternal, that means there is no birth, there is no death. It's always there. There is no time where it is not there. And then we also found there is an unlimitedness by objects. When it's a little bit weird when we say unlimited by objects, and I explained that when you talk about an object, if you take a computer, it is a computer and not a book. It is a computer and not a table, right? So it is limited by what it is, which is an object. And when we talk about Brahman, we are saying that every object is nothing but Brahman. Just like the gold and the necklace and the bangle, Brahman is in every object, and that's why we said it's Advaita, not it's only one. And then when we talked about Satyam, we said it's reality. Reality means everything, and then we concluded that everything. When we talk about everything, everything is. That means it is in awareness, right? So when we talk about everything is, or isness being the thing that is there in everything, that itself, that is what we call existence, right? Existence is what we call by Satyam, and and knowledge is what we call as awareness or consciousness. So when we talk about Atma, we say it is Satchit Ananta, or Ananta being Purnatvam, which is completeness, and therefore that is the bliss, the Ananda. So Satchit Ananda is nothing but existence, consciousness, and bliss. We said we have one original consciousness, which is what is reflected in the three bodies in microcosmic level. We talked about the three bodies, which is Karana Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, and Stula Shariram. And there is a reflection of all, of this ultimate consciousness or the original consciousness in each of these, which we call RC1, RC2, RC3. We had technical names for it, which is Prajna, Taijasa, and Vishwa. And the combination of this is what is called Jivatma, right? RC1 plus RC2 plus RC3. And similarly, if you look at the cosmic level, again you have the three bodies, which is the Karana universe, or the causal universe, which is called Antaryami or Karna Prapancha, and the subtle universe, which is Hiranyagarbha, and the gross universe, which is Virat. So similarly, if you take the reflection of the original consciousness and all three bodies, three universes, we get what we call as Paramatma or Ishvara. Right? And then we went into the essential oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. So there are some Mahavakyas, which are the fundamental equations of Vedanta. And we said example of these four, which is Prajnanam Brahma, which means pure consciousness is Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Tattvamasi, thou art that. I am Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. So in each of these Upanishads, they are basically try to drive home the point that the consciousness and Brahman are the same, right? At least this is the interpretation of these Vakyas in Advaita. And in the last one, there was a typo I wanted to just show you that if it is evident, we said if 5 equal to 5, you don't need an equation. The fact that we mistake the reflection, the distortions in the reflection to mean that Jivatma is inferior and Paramatma is superior, that's the reason why you need an equation. When two are not equal, then you can't have an equation. However, if they look different, like 5 plus 4 is 9, and 10 minus 1 is also 9, right?
Sorry, we couldn't hear you earlier.
Yeah, there's some problem with my internet. I mean,
From 5 equals 5, you
Yeah.
skipped and we got to just now.
okay. So we said 5 equal to 5 is an obvious statement. We don't need an equation for it. If things are not the same, 5 equal to 6, you can't have an equation for it. But if you look between, the Brahman and Jivatma and Paramatma, they look different. The reason they look different is because of the distortion caused by the reflection of the original consciousness. So what Vedanta is trying to tell us is that Jivatma and Paramatma are the same thing. It's just that you get fooled by the reflecting media or the distortion caused by the reflecting media. So we realize that Atma, Jivatma and Paramatma are the same, which is one, which is Brahman, and that is what we call the Advaita Jnana, right? The knowledge that we are nothing but the same ultimate consciousness. So, pretty often, is it? Is it going back, fading in and out a lot?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. So, okay. So we talked about Jivatma and Ishvara being the same. The Jiva Ishvara Aikyam. It's not two, but the same. And we said once we know this, we will get freedom from samsara. Right? Advaita Jnanam will release you from samsara, which then you realize that anything that is happening, anything that I can observe is not happening to me. It's the observer is not affected by that, right? And we compared it to the movie, and we talked about that when we talked about Atma, right? Like you're watching a movie and you're not actually participating in the movie. Again, the difference between the movie example is a good one. So we talked about not identifying, not being able to see the screen, right? And there are, if you take the different paths that we talked about, we said, oh, bhakti yoga or raja yoga or upasana yoga, where you through meditation you get it. Those are basically what those are trying to do is trying to stop the movie so you can see the screen, right? So it's almost like shut down everything. You really focus, and then you'll be able to, shut this movie down for a few moments. That's when you realize the screen. In Advaita case, what they're saying is you can know it by learning, by knowledge, right? And that is much more permanent and much more consistent in terms of yielding you the result. So what is the point of all this? If I know this, okay, fine, I know that I'm Brahman, I know there is a screen and everything is a movie, blah, blah, blah. What does it give me, right? There are 5 benefits that that Vedanta talks about. And I've told you, Vedanta is very good at these numbers. They keep giving you lists of things. These are the 5 benefits that they talk about. The first one is what they call Jignasa Nivritti, which is there is an inherent curiosity, the solving of the mystery of life that is there in all of us, and that actually comes, like what they say. Why is Vedas, Purva part of the Veda is all about rituals and doing stuff and everything, and then the Vedanta is about actually telling you why you're doing all of this. It's like when we are kids, we learn to brush our teeth. Parents tell us, okay, you got to go brush your teeth. They don't tell you that, oh, there are things called germs come and sit in your thing. If you don't brush your teeth, you won't. All that you learn over a period of time. First thing you learn is to start doing things, right? Once you start doing things, you get the curiosity. So why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this? That's when your jignasa starts coming out. And this education, or this jnana yoga, basically solves that mystery. It satisfies you by answering your questions. The second benefit that you get is what is called Vidyananda Prapti, which is delivering an inner peace because of the knowledge that you get, right? Paramatmananda, who is kind of my guru, who I've listened to quite a bit, he talks about it as is like UPS, right? Uninterrupted pleasure supply. So even if you don't have if you have external pressures, you will enjoy it. That's fine. But if you don't have that, you still have that internal UPS, which is constantly giving you happiness, right? So that is what Vidyananda Prapti is. The third benefit that you get is what we call Karpanya Nivritti. Karpanya is anxiety. Anxiety because you don't know what's going to happen. Is this going to come? And what am I? If this guy is going to run away, or is this person going to respond to me? All those anxieties that you have is something that you will disappear because your dependence on external thing goes away. Right? That's called Karpanya Nivritti. The third one is called Agata Nivritti. It is the emotional shock absorber. I think when we talked about Upasana Yoga, we talked about this, how your second arrow, you are able to manage very equanimously because of the knowledge that you are something different. What is happening to your body or your mind is not happening to you, and you're able to distance yourself from that, and that gives you equanimity. What that equanimity gives you is the fifth benefit, which is dakshata prapti. Dakshata prapti means increased efficiency. We talked about it sometime in the, I think, second or first session, where we said, we get into a zone. We get into a zone is when your efficiency is at the maximum, right? And your efficiency is at the maximum when your anxiety is at the lowest. You're not thinking about the result. You're not thinking about, you're just focusing on doing your stuff. And so these are the 5 benefits that that Jnana Phalam delivers to you. And this is what we overall call moksha, right? That ability to realize these 5 benefits is what is called moksha. Now, what Advaita Jnanapalam gives you, a jnani attains that liberation from the dependence of external things while living. It's called Jivan Mukti, or the person who achieves this is called the Jivan Mukta, the person who has achieved Jivan Mukti. And it is also beneficial to you after death, which is called Videha Mukti. Deham means body, Videha is without body, right? Videha Mukti. So we'll look into both of these. What does this mean? And in order for us to understand this, we need to understand the law of karma, and that's what we're going to cover today. So Jivan Mukti, what is Jivan Mukti? We said benefit of realizing Satchidananda. You realize it in this life. You don't have to die to realize it. And if you realize it in this life, then you get the Purnatvam. You get your dependence on impermanent things goes away, and you feel full. You feel like free from all isolation of rejection or need for anything. You get independence. You're not affected by presence or absence of things. You get equanimity or samatvam, and it helps me from getting overpowered. So this is what a Jivan Mukti looks like. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna specifically asked Krishna, right? What is, you're talking about this Chitta Prajna. What is the qualities of this person, this jnani? And he goes in length describing these things to say how this person is so free and so happy, and irrespective of what happens to him, he is in happiness, right? Now the question then comes is, okay, now that we've learned we are not this body, and we've learned we are Brahman, does that mean I'm a Jivan Mukti? As I mentioned in the last session as well, there is a whole series of things that we are supposed to do before we get here. And if we haven't done that, we still have to do it. So Tattva Jnana is one important aspect, which is understanding this reality. The Mano Naksha and Vasanakshaya are two other qualifications that actually Vidyaranya talks about, the Panchadashi person. This is basically Mano Nasha is you're getting rid of your destroying your mind, which means your ego is gone away. And Vasanakshaya is, again, these are all qualities that you gain by doing Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga and going through the rigmarole of relieving ourselves of attachments and the whole process of giving up your ego, right? Just knowing things doesn't mean you've achieved Jivan Mukti. What is Videha Mukti? Videha Mukti is what happens when you die. When a normal person dies, the physical body, which is Stula Shariram, goes back into Panchabhutas, right? It just decays. The subtle body, the Sukshma Shariram, it goes out. It seeks another body to continue the journey. And this is what we call Punarjanma, right? You keep being born again and again. When a jnani dies, all three sharirams merge with the samasti. That means the jnani does not have a rebirth. It's like the river joining the ocean. It gives you the benefit of destroying all his karmas. So to understand this, we need to understand the laws of karma, and that's what I'm going to do next. And then we'll come back to understanding what is Videha Mukti, right? There's a couple of more people coming in. Okay. Rajni is like 3 persons. Okay. So what is the law of karma? Every action has a motive, right? When we do any action, there is a motive behind it, and it produces result. Every action produces a phalam. There is a visible result. If I lift this phone and keep it here, there is a visible result, which is the phone has moved from here to here, right? There is also something called the invisible result. This is the motive that drives the result, right? So the visible one, drishta, we said drishta, right? Drishta phalam is what we see. Adrishta phalam is what is the invisible result. And so it's like if you're walking on the road and somebody pushes you, right? You fall down, you hit your knee on the road, and you're angry, you turn around, and then you realize, he actually pushed you because some vehicle was coming and you might have got hit by that vehicle, and that person pushed you to save your life. Now that is your motive, right? The motive is what is very different, and therefore when you think about it,
Sorry.
Adrishtapalam is of two types, which is what we call the punyam and papam, right? Punyam is when your motives are of the sattvic kind, or then the punyam becomes a positive. The actions prescribed by scriptures, when you do, you get punyam. When you do the actions prohibited by scriptures, then you get papam, right? the punyam leads to happiness and papam leads to unhappiness, sukha and dukkha, right? So the adrishta punyam, the visible drishtapalam, you've seen, this is what has happened. I see 4 of Rajni and I've admitted all of them and she still keeps coming back. Okay, so you get sukha or dukkha based on whether it is a positive or a negative, right? And this is what drives you to uh, uh, to happiness or to unhappiness. Now, each of these bear fruit at different times, right? So the adrishta phalam is something that comes in, but does not mean it immediately shows up. It has its own time for fructification. The actual uh, when you get it is not immediate, and depending on the kind of negative or kind of positive, it may take, it may be immediate, it may be to few months from now, it may be like few years from now, it could be from few births from now, right? So when we say I did this, but at the same time I'm not getting the result, it could be because your prarabdha or your ability for your punyam to fructify is not happening. The gestation period varies based on the type of karma and the type of punya and papa, right? So that's what it is. And what the unfructified punyam. So as we are born, once we are born, we start acting. When we do stuff, we start accumulating these adrishta phalams. And when you get that, you basically start accumulating all your punyams and papams, which then have to fructify at some point. And that fructification process, the gestation period is long. And therefore, when you drop your stula shariram, there is still this accumulated punyam and papam which gets carried on through your sukshma shariram, right? So sukshma shariram carries the unfructified punyas and papam. The happiness and unhappiness due to this needs to be experienced. The only way you can experience, you can't do transactions without a stula shariram, right? And that's why sukshma shariram is actually looking for a body and comes through a body, and then it does transactions, and when it does transactions, then the punyam and papam gets accumulated. That's why you have this whole cycle of birth and death. Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam. That's what happens. What kind of stula shariram you get is determined by how much punyam, how much papam you have. So if you're born a human this time, it is not necessary that you will be born a human. You could be born a dog, for example, or a cat. And if you have done enough punyam, you may be born in a nice, you could be like Jack in Suresh's house, had a great life, or you could be a street dog struggling for life, right? It's still because of the effect of your punyam and papam that you have accumulated. So this cycle has been going on from beginningless period, and the cycle can only be broken by getting knowledge. So there are 3 types of karma. Okay, the first type is called sanchita karma. Sanchita karma is the accumulated punya and papa, which is not yet fructified, right? That's what is called sanchita karma. Then you have what is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is out of this sanchita karma that you have accumulated, something comes, bears fruit. Either it brings you sukh or it brings you dukh, right? So that is based on whether it's a punyam or papam. And once you get that, that is what is called prarabdha karma. So when you speak, in fact, in Tamil, in Chennai, they'll say prarabdham irunda ellam varum. Means if you have prarabdha karma, something. Sorry, yes, go on mute. Then there is the third type of karma called agami karma. Agami karma is the karma that results from actions that you do in this karma. Again, this may again fructify this life, or it may be accumulated back as sanchita karma, right? So the punya and papa that you create in this birth is what is called agami karma. So basically, you are born with some sanchita karma. You add to it through through actions that you do today, and you subtract from it based on the prarabdha that gets fructified, right? So if you put it in an equation form, basically, the sanchita karma of the nth incarnation of you is the sanchita karma with which you were born in the previous birth, the agami karma that you accumulated in that birth, and the prarabdha karma, which is all the fructification of the sanchita karma that happened in the last birth, right? So skn minus 1 minus pkn minus 1 plus akn minus 1 equal to skn, right? So you're born with that skn, and that determines your rest of your life, right? So what happens to a jnani? We talked about videha mukti. In the jnani's case, the moment you realize something, then all the sanchita karma that you have accumulated just gets burnt, right? There is no more sanchita karma, it just gets destroyed. And the accumulation of agami karma stops, because as a jnani, you are not doing anything for ego. You're absolutely untouched by your actions. And therefore, your accumulation of agami karma stops. So you still have the sanchita karma that you were born with, which gets burnt, and then there is no accumulation of agami karma, and therefore there is absolutely no karma accumulation for you, and therefore you don't have a need for rebirth, because your need for transaction is not there. There is no need for you to fructify those happiness. Okay.
It's okay. I don't mind listening to the equation again.
Okay, fine.
We need the solution for the equation also.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fraction of so whatever you're born with, right, the sanchita karma, that has certain sukh and dukh, right? There is punya and papa. Now, as I said, the gestation period is not determined, so it can gestate anytime. It depends on how you accumulated it, and that is what is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is the fructification of that thing. So a fraction of what you were born with gets it actually becomes fruitful. You either get happiness or you get sadness, and then you do new actions this birth. That is what you call agami karma. So sanchita karma plus agami karma, and then whatever sanchita karma gets burnt through prarabdha is reduced. So you get the equation that this birth you start with skn based on skn minus 1 minus pkn minus 1 plus akn minus 1, right?
See, the AK, shouldn't the AK be AKN?
No, so this I'm talking about what you are when you're
Born with. Born with. Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then what happens to the jnani? The reason the jnani doesn't have another life is because when you get jivan mukti, your SK just gets burnt off. There is no more SK, right? So the SK n minus 1 that you had becomes 0. And the AK doesn't accumulate anymore, because whatever action that the jnani is doing without the ego. He doesn't do anything for, he understands that he is not this body, he's not this mind, he's not this intellect. And every action is egoless. And therefore he doesn't accumulate any karma, right? So AK, whatever remaining AK is what is there. And that's why you find people like, even people like Ramana Maharishi had cancer, and he had to live through that pain, because he had some karma that was still there, which needed to be converted to prarabdha, and that had to be burnt off. But once he finishes that, then there is no more birth for him, because there is no more accumulation of sanchita karma. Sorry, did anybody have a question?
Yeah, I was going to comment, but I think you kind of answered that. But I was saying that SK has to be 0 to be a Jnani. The Jnani doesn't have SK is equal to 0.
No. So Jnani basically become only when he becomes, so when we say we are Jivan Mukti, right? Once you realize your true self, then the accumulated Sanchita Karma vanishes. Okay?
I was saying the other way around. Isn't it that the accumulated Sanchita Karma has to become 0 to be a Jnani?
No, it's the other way around. Because so basically, if today as we are and we become a Jivan Mukti, you could say that, oh, I became a Jivan Mukti because my Sanchita Karma got burnt. But it's the other way around, where because I've realized, the power of realization removes all my Sanchita Karma, accumulated Sanchita Karma, and stops any more, Agami Karma from accumulating. And that's what happens. Okay, so that's why you don't have a rebirth, and you become part of Samasti, and that's it. That's the end of you, right? No more bondage. So there are many questions that are answered by the law of karma. So for example, we always have these questions: why is there a disparity when people are born? Somebody is born to a very good family, somebody is born to a poor family, or they don't have good parents, or whatever it is, right? Or genetic problems and so on. Is it God playing dice, or is he determining, okay, you did bad things, so I'm going to give you this? That's a question that we have. And then we have the question of I'm doing everything according to dharma, then why am I still suffering? Who am I to blame, right? What is happening? Why is this happening? The third question that we have is, can I decide my future? There's so much of luck and things involved. Is it all fated? Is there a free will? Can I do something to influence what outcome I get? And then there's always this question, right? Even if you see any movie, the villain has a nice life throughout the movie. At the end, he dies, that's fine. But the hero goes through so much trouble. Why is it that good people suffer and bad people seem to have a good time? Is God unjust? These are the questions that we have, right? So if you look at it, the law of karma says that where you're born and what condition is decided by your Sanchita Karma. So what punya and papa that you accumulated determines where you're born. The gestation period for the fructification of karma is variable. Therefore, even though you may be doing everything good when you're right in this birth, there may be accumulated Sanchita Karma that's affecting your things, but your good actions will result in good. Maybe not in this birth, maybe in the next birth. Can I decide my future? So the fact that your past, whatever you did in your past, is what is determining your Sanchita Karma. Whatever you do today is what is going to determine your next birth Sanchita Karma, right? So if the past is all determined by your actions, the future is also determined by your actions, and therefore, it's up to you. It's all in your hands to have a good life. Why do some? Again, it depends on prarabdha karma, right? If the fructification happens immediately, maybe the papa fructification will happen in 6 months' time, or maybe in 60 years' time, but it will happen. So if you look at it from a karma perspective, it's a very non-interfering force, right? God is not. So karma basically points to a non-interfering just force, right? It's got nothing. God is not putting hurdles in your way, or God is not giving you a push, or whatever it is. According to the law of karma, you do good stuff, you will get good stuff. It's just that it may take time for you to get it. Right. So if you take all those questions and write them down as corollaries, the first corollary is there is no one to blame. Right. You can't say I was given this bad situation because and that's why I'm like this. Well, the bad situation came to you because you did some things in your past life. Past is responsible for present, implies that the present is responsible for future. So everything is in your hands. If you follow dharma, you will have a good, good future, and there is nobody else to blame. Corollary 3: good brings good, bad brings bad, but it may take different time for different things to happen. The fourth corollary is, this is an interesting corollary, right? So what this says is that there is something called prayaschitta karma, which is you can do certain things to address your sanchita karma. There is no cure-all, but there are some things that you can do. At least this is what is said in the Vedanta. They also say that you could get a glimpse of what your prarabdha looks like, and that's what all this horoscope is supposed to be. It's not that the planet influences what you do, but the planet kind of indicates. It's like the clock indicates when the sun rises, right? The clock is not controlling the sun, but it kind of says that, oh, if it's going to be 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe the sun is going to rise. Something like that. So your horoscope will tell you kind of, oh, this is how your prarabdha is likely to be. And therefore you could take some corrective actions through prayaschitta. That is corollary 4. And then, of course, rebirth is guaranteed until you get knowledge. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. We'll go through this cycle till we realize Jivan Mukti. So that is Advaita Vedanta. I will go through the next 2 slides. The next 2 slides is basically summarization of what we've learned over the last 7-8 weeks. Artha Kama Dharma goals are limited. It never leads to permanent happiness because all of them are dependent on impermanent things. The way to permanent happiness and fulfillment is moksha, freedom from dependence on impermanent things. And Advaita says knowledge is the only antidote to ignorance. And the knowledge is Atma is Satya, everything else is Mityam. And we learned about individual and search within for the Atma, right? So we went through and said, what is Atma? Then we realized that Atma is the knower. So you can never know Atma because that's the knower. So if you really look at it, who's that one person whom you know very well who has never seen your face directly? It's you. You can never see your own face directly. The only way you've seen it is either by a reflection or by a photograph or through a selfie or whatever it is, right? That's the essence of it. You cannot see yourself. The Atma cannot, see itself because it is the seer. We discovered that Atma is our true selves. Both individuals and universe are but a reflection of this one truth. So Atma and Brahma, we saw the universal consciousness and it reflecting off the things. Law of karma tells us that we can be released from this eternal cycle of birth and death when we realize the truth. So what did we learn? The structure of our sessions, this whole structure that I put through is from a work called Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha is self-knowledge, right? It is attributed to Shankara, but they say it's one of the Shankaracharyas. It's not Adi Shankara who wrote it, but it's a text that is available, which is what is considered the first text that you should master, which is what we have done. I've covered almost everything in Tattva Bodha in the last 7-8 weeks, which will give you the basis for you to go and read any of the Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita or any of the works that you want to pursue. So what did we learn? We basically learned first the qualifications of the Mumukshu, right? Sadhana Chatushtayam, which is the 4 Ds. The discrimination is what? Is the Nitya Anitya Viveka. That is, how do you differentiate between what is permanent, what is impermanent? The dispassion to ignore all those which are not permanent. The ability to the Vairagya to move away from that. the discipline, which is the sixfold discipline that we learned, and then the intense desire to understand what is moksha and to attain that moksha. He said the path is karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga. And then we learned about Atma, which is the Vyasti Vichara. The path to get there is karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga. We learned about the individual, which is what we call Vyasti Vicharaha. And then we learned about the Samasti Vicharaha, which is the universe, the cosmos. In Vyasti, we learned about Shariratrayam, Vivastatrayam, and Kosha Panchakam, right? And then we learned Atma and Brahma. And then we said Jivatma and Paramatma is the same. This is the most important lesson of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, which is the Aikya Vicharaha, which is the oneness of both Jivatma and Paramatma, which is Tattvam Asi. Right? Tattvam Asi is thou art that. Which in fact, if you take Bhagavad Gita, right, one of the later Advaitins called Madhusudana Saraswati, he lived in the 1500s. He kind of described Bhagavad Gita. He divided Bhagavad Gita, the 18 chapters, into 3 sections. He said 3 are about Tat, Tvam, and Asi. That is, the first 6 chapters about the individual, right? About Arjuna, the Karma Yoga, everything that you need to do. Then he talks about that's about Tvam, right? That's you. Then he talks about God, which in Krishna talks about himself as God, but actually he's talking about Atma. He shows Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa is, he's saying, I am everything, right? He's basically saying I'm Brahman. And then he talks about both of them being same. So that's how Madhusudan Saraswati divided Bhagavad Gita into 3 parts. So it's the same truth which is coming again and again. But if you take Bhagavad Gita, you have various interpretations of it. Adi Shankara has written a bhashyam on it. Many people have written on it. So did Madhva and Ramanuja. Everybody has written. And each of them has a different perspective to it. And then we learned about the Jnana-phalam. So there are 5 things that we learned, which is, in the Jnana-phalam, we learned about Sanchita Karma, Prarabdha Karma, and Agami Karma, right? So that's what we learned. This gives us the foundation to pursue this vast subject, whatever you need to learn. So there are 5 sections. The sadhana chatushtayam is the qualification. Chatushtayam, Vyasti Vicharaha, Samasti Vicharaha, Aikya Vicharaha, and Jnana-phalam. These are the 5 things that we learned, right? So if you revise whatever we have gone through in these 5 sections, you'll be able to remember. This gives you the basic foundation to go and read any of the other things that you need to, that you feel like reading in Vedanta. What I wanted to do was to also give you a glimpse of some of the Upanishads that are there. So I picked up some basic things from some of the Upanishads.